Oh, wait. Hello? Huh. Oh, that's interesting. Test? Test? Oh, someone pressed the button. Hold up. How about now? Ow. Test? How about now? See, so I'm playing around with different amounts of like room separation or echo removal on the NVIDIA, like whatever AI based thing. And if we do the echo removal, I have the echo removal on for the Twitch stream, and I don't have it on for the YouTube and the Discord streams. And the Twitch stream seems to me like the echo removal actually makes the attack timing of the microphone different, and that's very interesting. Very interesting. I will listen to this. Well, I was supposed to listen to yesterday's, but I never got a chance to. So I'll listen to today's, and yeah. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. Yes. I got it. I'll figure it out later. So today, as it was sponsored by our Year 1 Class 1 Corporation, we're going to have some quasi-philosophical discussions. And as you can see that the Year 1 Class 1 Corporation has already furnished me with 2 topics that we shall be discussing today. Which, it's fine. I like it. I think it's important. Very good. Very good. Okay. Well, ignoring that, I should mention we are allowing certain. No, we are allowing certain lobbies to actually advertise now during the like inject advertisement text. Oh, I should put this in. Certain no, not certain, but rather lobbies can bid on injecting 2 lines of advertisement. If you're from across the pond, 2 lines of advertisement in the chat during the stream, and our our family law lobby, I think, has improved a little bit given the type of advertisement they've just entered. But anyway, that's sort of neither here nor there. It's just very amusing that they chose to do that right as I was talking about the Year 1 Class 1 Corporation, which is very topical. If you know what I'm talking about, if you don't know, well, too bad. Anyway, that's really weird. Hold on. Let me just double check something vis-a-vis Twitch. The Twitch stream. Yeah, the Twitch stream looks... I don't know what it is specifically about the how do you say? Oh, okay. No, I can't do that. Like there's something very specifically odd about the way that the Twitch stream is working. And I have no idea why that is. It's yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like are you actually on the Twitch stream? It's like the audio seems to be sampled in a different way. 160. We'll get to George Santos. There's not much to talk about vis-a-vis George Santos, really. 160 custom encoder settings. Nope. Yeah, I have no idea why Twitch is different. No. I have, for now we will like, I've set the suppression intensity down a little bit, and hopefully that'll be fine. Okay. George Santos. George Santos. For those of you who don't know, perhaps who don't live in America or whatever. New. Oh, wrong keyboard. New congressman from, what was it? Long Island. I think it was Long Island, right? Yeah. Long Island. Lied about entire history, i.e., education, work, etc., etc. So, and now there is a movement to recall him, recall the, to recall, right? Essentially, like, oh, because he lied, therefore he should not represent Long Island because he did so on sort of, I guess like invalid principles. My I guess my point, the point that I want to get to is this. There's no easy way for me to say this, so all of your politicians are lying. None of them are being very, very interested. None of them are being very, like, completely 100% fair all the time, right? Like if as Republicans you're willing to elect someone like Donald, like, this doesn't even you should, yeah. You should see those comments that are coming out. Fantastic. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. So our partisans on the left are laughing at me saying this, and our partisans on the right are sputtering in denial and hatred. And it's just like, it's just a one gigantic cauldron of like raging emotions. What time are we at? We're at 8 minutes and 10 seconds. Raging cauldron of smugness and sputtering between left and right extremists on within the community, right? And it's well, it's my opinion. Obviously, you don't have to actually follow my opinion, right? For everything you do. For some things you should, like health, for some things like health, for things like eating, for things like, if you're paying me for investment advice and then you don't take my investment advice, that is probably, not what you should do, or you could choose not to pay me in that case. But in this particular case, I do not think that, like politicians lying is such a cliche that it doesn't even phase it doesn't really phase people, right? Like, and so it feels a little bit disingenuous to punish George Santos. It feels disingenuous to punish George Santos for lying when other politicians lie all the time. And this is the most important part, and society has come to accept and even expect that politician, right? Like, if you're going to be jaded as a society, then you have no right to because you as a society bred George Santos, right? He thought he could get away with it because he has seen everyone else get away with it, right? He thought he could get away with it because he saw others getting away with it. And if you as a society have become jaded and accepted it, then it is really the fault of society, right? As society as a whole. Now, that's not to say that you cannot now clean up your act and as a society suddenly demand that all of your politicians never lie, and whenever they lie, to kick them out. But that is not what's going to happen, right? Let's be very, very clear about this. If this were your, say, like, revolutionary moment, right? If this were your Tea Party, not Tea Party, well, Tea Party, no. Let's say if this were your Boston Harbor ruining of good tea moment, then by all means go for it. But all of you know very well deep down that this is not that moment. Why is my... Hold on. I wonder why the audio of that is so low. Okay, let me just pull it back up a little bit. 28.5 looks about right. Right? Okay. And that is merely the point that I'm trying to make, right? And it is really a general point. If this is not a Boston Harbor ruining of good tea moment, then there is no real right to demand that he step down. Because as a society, as Republicans, as Democrats, you have made it very, very clear that integrity is not something that is within the top, like top, let's say top 3 qualities that you look for, right? And before our leftist extremists become even more smug, let's be very clear. You lot are put ideological purity at the very top, right? And so I don't mean to compare you to the other lot where ideological purity is sort of a litmus test, but right now there is a, let's call it a quasi-fascist segment of the progressive movement that is not allowing any other viewpoints. And a lot of these fascist progressives are, shall we say, not fully educated and do not quite understand the issues that they talk about. Which, in this case, I will compare those people to their reactionary brethren, because you may as well be the exact same thing, right? Like, if you're uneducated and you're being fascist about it, or you're not accepting other viewpoints, then you are essentially, fascist. Congratulations, good job. I'm happy for you. If you prefer, I could call you guys communists. No, not communists. Radical socialists. How about that? Yeah. But the point remains, right? Like, as a society we have decided that this is not an issue that requires that we will. This is not a hill that people will die on, right? Because to them, political expediency is more important than personal integrity. And if that's the case, then who are you blaming? I don't know who you're blaming. Literally, George is just a representation of that, right? Of the fact that political expediency trumps everything. Let me put it that way. In conclusion, George Santos is merely the symbol that political expediency trumps. Maybe let's not say trumps. can overrule all other concerns on both the right and the left extremists. For both the right and left extremists. Good. Okay, done. Next topic. Idleness, idle mind. Right, and so here we're talking about the I will not be drawn into that debate. I will say this. If compromise were part of one of the if compromise were in the top 5 of what people chose for in their politicians, your society would look so much better. That's all I will say on this topic. Okay, cool. But you don't look for compromise, right? You look for ideological purity. That's very ideological purity and political expediency. That is what you look for, and that is how you vote. And therefore that is how your politicians who grow up in that society act. Right? Let's not forget Barry Goldwater, right? Like Barry Goldwater was decades before my time. In fact, Barry Goldwater is technically a contemporary to some of our year 3 students, but the point remains that when you start playing these different factors, you make life easier within the party, but you make life more difficult outside of the party, right? Like the more control you have over the entire apparatus, by definition, the more aligned everyone's incentives must be. And when everyone's incentives are aligned in the same direction, and the two parties are misaligned very heavily, then that's divergence, right? That's all there is to it. Yeah, divergence comes when incentives are aligned within but misaligned without. Okay. No. Our year 1 class 1 corporation has put down the word. They have told me that I must move on, so I will move on now. Let's talk about the idle mind. And the idle mind is one of those things that is really, really interesting because it, in some ways, is the cause for a lot of our social troubles, including some of the troubles with George Santos that we just talked about. And partly what so to me the idle mind is foundationally part of what causes let's call it idiopathic depression, right? Depression that doesn't have a direct cause. For example, some people have genetic predisposition to depression, and that's perfectly legit. Some people have had trauma and then get depression from that, perfectly legit, right? Post-traumatic stress disorders, perfectly legit. But there are also people who seemingly have everything they want but are depressed, right? There's a reason. Let me type it out. Essentially, depressed as a teenager with no real problems can be, right? Which is sort of that sort of age-old adage that teenagers can be super depressed because they have nothing to do, and in part this is because of idle minds, right? Like they're certainly not getting the challenge to their brains that they need at school. They don't have tasks that they necessarily need to focus on, and when we don't have focus, our minds are simply not going to be that healthy, right? Our minds tend to not be very healthy. When everything is important, nothing is important. And reverse. when nothing is important, everything is important. Exactly, right? Like so as say you have your food taken care of, you have sleeping accommodations taken care of, and you never have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about laundry, you don't have to worry about cooking. You just show up to work and then you come home and you have, you have a lot of extra time during the day, right? Like this doesn't strictly apply to a lot of people in our society, in our community, but it does apply to a few of our year one class one students, class one and class two students, and it also applies to some of our yeah, those people that I can't actually point out, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And so when everything is important, nothing is important. The corollary of that, of course, is when nothing is important, everything's important. And I think it's intuitive for us to understand that when everything is important or when nothing is important, nothing gets done. Right? In either situation, nothing gets done. And why is this important, or why is this relevant to an idle mind? Well, for an idle mind, there's nothing that's important. And therefore, at the same time, everything can be important and everything can be triggering, right? And so for an idle mind, everything can feel important and everything can be triggering, and therefore an idle mind is easily distracted by negativity, which will very often lead to anxiety, depression, etc., etc. Does that kind of make sense? Excellent. Excellent. Questions? Well, yeah. Yeah. Mm. This is an example that I often bring up when we talk about this. E.g., there are I'm sure almost all of you will have seen this in your lives. Uh, Veterans are often divided into two big groups: successful and maybe not. Okay. Let's say there is a group of veterans who cannot adjust to civilian life after they are discharged because they um, because discharge because civilian life is often going to provide them with lots of time for idle minds. And you'll find that there are actually two groups that suffer from this, or people that veterans that suffer from this will then split off into two separate groups. The first group being a group of folk who then tend to go on, take that as an insult, and work really hard and find things to do, and they become lawyers, they become politicians, or whatever. They essentially take the discipline that they built up in the armed forces, in a life of regularity, of of strict discipline, and they apply that to their civilian work, and then they get really far ahead, right? Because they don't want to have that idle mind, and they understand that the best way to get rid of that idleness is through action. First group that suffers from this takes action and therefore fills their day with with all the work they can find, and these are often quite successful at doing whatever they choose. The second group is different. The second group is unable to find that discipline, and you see that these people, they lose that ability to enforce their own discipline, and they suffer from that idleness in their minds. Suffers hard from the idleness and descend into, let's say, mental health issue, bad. Let's just say they descend into mental health issues, and these and people can move between the people who cannot live with their idleness can move between these two groups. And I guess what I'm trying to say is usually the people who suffer from like a dislike of idleness. Oh, excuse me. Who suffer from a dislike for this will move between these groups, but they will always move. Like they can move between these groups, and I rarely see people who sort of like drift out of these groups and then just to go on to lead a vaguely normal, mildly successful life. Because those people, those veterans who are discharged and are able to deal with the idleness of their own minds, without being afraid of it, tend to be, mildly successful, and they have their own careers and they do well, but they also have very healthy family lives. Not always very healthy, but they're sort of able to reintegrate into civilian society with little trouble. We are talking here about a group of veterans who cannot easily adjust to civilian life, and so that's because of the idleness, right? And so yeah, exactly. My point is, I don't often see sort of completely or people who are completely unable to adjust, who are successful or unsuccessful, and they move between those two groups. I don't see them then slowly easing back into civilian life as much as moving between the groups. Make sense? Cool. So I yeah, I don't disagree with that. One of our year one class one students made a comment about the fact that idleness is a way for the brain to relax. Yes, but it's also a way for the brain to conserve energy, right? And we've talked about this in before. The body, the one thing the body and the lower brain wants to do is to conserve energy, right? But it does so at the cost of things that we consider healthy. So like activity, an active mind really is one of the most important things for good mental health. An active mind and active health. And an active mind doesn't mean just like dumbly reading other people's opinions. It means forming your own opinions, challenging yourself to do something new and novel, because the brain needs that challenge, otherwise its patterns will set. Does that make sense? Yes, exactly. Let me add this in. The brain needs that extra, needs constant stimulation, challenge to change. Otherwise, we become truly set in our ways and are unable to adjust ever. And I mean, we see that in people. We see that actually I have been seeing this effect appear in people, in younger and younger people, right? Like, I mean, I deal with you lot. When I first started working, This was what, half a decade ago. Half a decade is a long time, okay? When I first started working, it was different because, or I mean, I think it was different, like over the past half decade. But I mean, I've observed people longer than that, right? So let's say over the past decade, I have seen people go from really, really, like I've seen the average age of stubbornness decrease. So it started at a slightly older age. Let's say like the average age, let's say like 58, right? I feel like with my communications with people in our community and at work, I feel like that I have seen less, or I have seen that age drop down to like an average of, let's say, 55, 54, dare I say 53. Yeah. Yeah, well, that is what happens, right? Such is life. Such is your life. Sorry, yes, I did have to respond to that message. Yeah, I don't know. Does that help vis-a-vis the subject of idleness, idle minds, idiopathic depression? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. We are past our bedtime, not bedtime, ending time. That's the one I'm trying to. I am okay. If it sounds like my nose is stuffy, it's mildly stuffy. So yes, you are correct in actually deducing that. Anyway, we are done for today. Thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, please download Firefox, please don't do Chrome, and I shall see all of you. What day is it? Wednesday. Yes, I shall see all of you tomorrow. I hope. Fingers crossed. Oh, can I just make one final point? And this is more towards the future scientific paper discussions. Whoever streams these in the future. What is this? 33 minutes and 10 seconds for scientific paper discussions. Please do not make me read 200-page papers to discuss on stream. Okay, like you guys will remember that the Mommies Clique had sponsored that, and then they had, I don't know how they decided, but they decided to send me it was a World Bank, right? I believe it was, no, it was the IMF. Was it the IMF research? I can't even remember. I'll figure it out after. Anyway, it was a 200-page research written on consumption taxes. And yes, I do count that within scientific papers, and I would love to discuss that, but 200 pages on consumption taxes means there's a lot for me to read and parse before I can talk about it, right? So yeah, that's why we haven't been doing it, because obviously it's just taking me so bloody long, right? Like I still have other shit to do, so just please, in the future, if you guys do sponsor scientific paper discussions, please try to keep them low in page numbers so that I can actually get through them so that we can talk about them. Otherwise, your money or your points is being spent on things that take too long, right? And so you might not see the results of your points for a long time, right? Cool. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, please download Firefox, please don't do Chrome, and I shall see all of you possibly tomorrow. Actually, probably tomorrow, where we will be writing more Muses fiction. Yes, unfortunately. Well, maybe not unfortunately. Let's go with fortunately. Cool, cool. Okay, bye. Yes, I remember. Wink.